the traffic, I'm going to tell some people, before I ask you a question and let you speak, I want to tell some people about you, if I can.
Wait, so, make sure you lie, because I don't want to hear anything negative. Come on.
We already have that contract, right? The non-disparage contract.
Right. Don't do it.
Welcome, everybody. As traffic is building, we have Monk Eternal on Rise Up, Evolutionary conversations today. These conversations are intended to be a weekly transformational talk, and Monk is an author, transformational coach, personal trainer, public speaker, and 3-time natural pro physique bodybuilder in the SF Oakland Bay area. Come on. Coming from a very poor and dysfunctional childhood, he eventually ended up living a life filled with drugs and alcohol until his body started to fail him. Not knowing what to do, he went deep into meditation, which eventually prepared and transformed his life to a life of peace and purpose filled. It's now his mission to help others do the same. So, Monk Eternal, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited and honored and blessed to be here to have this conversation with you. This is the first time we're meeting, and even though I couldn't hear you when you first came on, I seen your face and it was lit up, and I'm just like, this guy is amazing. So I know we're gonna have an amazing conversation today.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. I want to start off with a perfunctory question. How are you? But I really want to know, how are you? How are you with everything that's going on in the world today? How are you with the political situation, with what's going on in the streets in the Bay Area, with the national conversation on racial justice? How are you? How are you doing?
Thanks for asking. I'm well. I am well. Now I have a different perspective on things. Like the things that are going on now, I don't take personal anymore, because I know that it's not a personal issue. It's an issue about conditioning and about the narrative and the story that's created, right? So now when I see people with, hateful actions and doing things that really doesn't align with who they are, because we are all love, right? Essentially, that's what we are. So when someone's so out of alignment, I don't judge that person. I just know there's work to be done, right? And so instead of getting in the mud and getting muddy with it, I like to stay up out of that and carry this love vibration into any situation. So when we move out of a loving place, we can actually be productive. But if we are in a reactionary state, which a lot of us are right now, the hate, the fear comes, and we go right back at it with hate and fear. We need to step out of that place. And not take it so personal, because if you all believe that we are of one source, we can't fight against that source. You see what I'm saying? We got to fight against maybe the actions of people trying to hold other people down, but the source itself is one. So I don't take it personal anymore, where I used to be very angry and take it personal when people were doing certain things. Even people I know, I'm so surprised right now that support this hate and with this atmosphere that's going on, right? This energy that's going on. I know that deep down inside, it was something that they needed to take care of, something that always has been there, that actually has started to emerge now. We have to do a lot of introspective work. We have to go inside. We got to see what these emotions that are coming up, how we can deal with these emotions that've been there. All this is what's going on right now. All it's doing is exposing. This has always been there. All it's doing is making it come to the surface. All it's doing is having us deal with things we haven't dealt with or should have dealt with already, right? So I don't take it personal. I know there's the birthing process is going on right now. I know everything has to, in order to heal, it all has to come up. And just like the other day, I made a post what kind of emotions are you feeling right now? What's coming up for you? And whatever's coming up for you, if it's fear, if it's anger, if it's hate, that's okay, but that needs to be dealt with so we can move past that, right?
Yeah. So, no, please go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it's time to stop suppressing and repressing emotions and actually get to the root of these things and deal with these emotions as they come up instead of pushing them back.
I agree. Now, 100%, it's an inward journey, right? As Howard Thurman's beautiful book is titled, The inward journey. It is about my own exploration. Now, in the context, there is a reaction in culture, in our society, that I've come across with really loving, beautiful people who say, it's not me. I'm good. I'm good. I have fond regard across racial lines. You know, my first husband or wife was Black, or I have lots of people in my life, or no, I'm not racist. I don't harbor these hateful thoughts, right? And, you know, someone who, like our current president said, I'm the least racist person in the room, which to me is the biggest red flag in the world, right? So not because I'm looking to point the finger of blame, because just as you said, the inward journey is the work that's to be done. And when I say, I'm good, it's not me, that's a refusal to look within, in my opinion.
Right, being implicit, right?
Tell me more about that.
So I'm just saying, a lot of people, since they don't have a quote unquote, you know, dog in the fight, they want to, you know, like you said, I'm saying I'm good. I can just step to the side and let this thing play out. It's time for action. And it's time for action, like I said, from a loving space. Oh, if it's not from there, the action is not going to be as productive, right? We have to take action. It's really about, whenever I talk or speak to anybody, even if it's something I really agree with, it's all about the delivery. What energy, see, people don't think that judging someone internally while they're trying to get a point across, right, is really affecting this interaction. But in reality, it's all about the delivery. So if I'm telling you something from a judgmental place, they're not going to receive that as if I was telling them the same words from a loving place.
People feel it.
Right. Everything's energy.
Yes.
When you understand that part, then words are less important, but the energy that's attached to those words are more important. You understand that. So even people that may hate me at this point for no reason at all, except for the color of my skin and their conditioning, I'm able to send that person still love, because I understand. I understand now that it's nothing personal. I understand that. And more people that don't directly have to deal with things like I do as far as my race, we need to have understanding. That's what it's all about. And I think when you do that inner work, you start to understand the oneness of it all, the wholeness of it all, and why things are happening the way they're happening. And like I said before, I think we're in a rebirthing process. We're in a paradigm shift. And in order to heal, it has to be surfaced. And this is what's going on right now. And it's going to be painful. It's going to be painful watching people you know and love have this idea that we didn't know they had, but now, since it's all coming to the surface, it's like, wow, I never knew that you thought like that. I never knew that racism wasn't a deal breaker. I never knew that hate wasn't a deal breaker. I didn't know that about you, right? Like I said, step back, put love on the situation. There's no need to argue with this person. This person is going through their own thing. And you know, people that live in hate and anger, they need love more than anybody, because this is something that doesn't feel good, right? These emotions that come up, they don't feel good. So why should I throw my judgment on top of what they're already, you know, going through? And I always say, if you see someone that's really angry and hateful and bitter, and they might flip you off or say something, the last thing they need is for you to jump in on that. That's the very last thing. Hurt people, right? So we don't know what's going on in this person's life where they feel like they have to be like this. But whatever it is, they don't need me to jump in and add to that pot, right? All they need from me is some love and understanding, right? So the people that we want to judge the most, the people that we don't like the most, the people we say, oh, I hate that person, that's the person that needs your love. That's not a person that needs your hate. They're already dealing with that. You know what I'm saying?
You know, I'm reminded of Martin Luther King Jr.'s statement that he would make before marching, and he would say something to the effect of, "If we're victorious today, the people we are marching against will be our neighbors, right? And I think that's really beautifully expressed in the beloved community that you're seeking to bring forth from this place of love and understanding. And now but you've talked about, and I'm interested in this, you've talked about people who blatantly hate you or hate because of, right? There's blatant racism, right? Like, but there is this idea, what I was trying to get to earlier, that racism isn't just people walking around with hoods on their head, right? That we all have implicit bias, all of us, every one of us, and typically that bias is unconscious, and it's not something that we can figure out in our conscious mind. And so it's not so much the individuals that are, carrying tiki torches and wanting to support, Confederate statues. It's the people, and even myself, all of us who have unexamined ideas or ideas that are in the unconscious. So, but still and yet love, still and yet understanding. How do we bring those conversations? Are you finding that you're having those conversations with people that aren't blatant? How are you encountering that in your daily interaction or in your work as a coach?
Well, and sometimes it's really hard on social media not to jump into the mix when you know you shouldn't do it, when you know there's not a winner. If you jump into this pot of hate and anger, no matter what you say. But I'm to the point where I can jump into it and leave whatever I feel on my heart to leave. And then no matter what comes back, I don't have to react to that.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's going to defend their position. So you're not going to change anybody's subconscious program. That's not going to happen. All you can do is plant a seed and wait for that person to see something different, right? To look in another direction, to question their own reality. We got to question ourselves and why and what we believe.
That's it.
That's what we got to do every single day. Like,
yes.
Why am I feeling this? Why am I moving like this? Why am I thinking about this person like this? What do I have to work on as far as myself? Because the way to change the world is to align, not change yourself, but get back to self. We've all been conditioned. We've all been programmed until we realize that we're a program. So we go through this, most of us go through this whole life conditioned and not knowing really who we are.
Right.
And with those conditions come limits. So imagine the limits that are put on. If I was to fully identify with race, the limits that would come on me, the limits that I would have to deal with if I said, well, this is who I am, this is my
yes,
right? What are the limits that come with that? Think about that. What are the limits that come with someone that looks like me? Oh, the limits are everywhere. At every turn, you're limited to what you can do, right? I understand that I have a shared experience with people that look like me, but I also understand I'm unlimited at the same time. So I can move on this planet in this suit, this skin suit, and move and know no limits, but still have a shared experience and a shared struggle for social justice and everything else that we're going through. But I can do it from a different place than the victim identity, right?
I so agree.
Yeah, you're not doing it to you're not going to have me play the victim, even though I'm here to make these changes. I know I'm unlimited, just like anybody else, and I know everybody's walking around with. I didn't watch the movie The Matrix probably about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and someone asked me because I'm not a big Keanu Reeves fan as far as acting goes, right? Someone said you got to watch The Matrix. I'm like, for what? and they said you got to watch The Matrix. I'm like, why? And it was like, because you're always talking and you talk like you got to see it. So I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. I'm gonna watch it. Man, when that movie was over, I was like this.
Right? And you know what I say? I'm out the Matrix.
Man,
I'm not in the Matrix. I'm outside the matrix, baby.
Oh my God. I'm like, this is it. I was like, this is it. Like, it became like my favorite movie of all time. Once I watched it, this is what I didn't want to watch. But I watched it and I'm like, it can't be truer than this.
Yeah.
It can't be truer than this. We were walking around like zombies. We don't know who we are. And then when we are separated into so many boxes we're separated into. And if my box goes against something in your box, then we got conflict. Then we got anger and hate, right? If my program doesn't align with your program, then we're bumping heads.
Right.
So what if everybody got rid of the program? Guess what? That unity comes back, right? It's so simple. It's so simple that why most people in other countries, like say the Middle East, they're Muslim, why most people here are Christians, why it's so simple. It's because that's taught over there. That's taught over here, right? We come in already knowing everything. And then we have these parents that most of the time they want the best for us, but they give us what they believe is the truth, right? They also give us limits, especially when it comes to minorities. Hey, get a good job that pays the bills, stay in your lane.
Right.
Black people can't do this. This is what you need to do with your life. And they're coming from the heart and they want the best for you, but they don't understand who they are. There's intergenerational trauma. There's trauma that's passed down from generation to generation to generation that's actually in your cells, right? Until we are able to heal and get through that, we're always going to deal with this trauma. And it's about healing.
So that question, I mean, there's so much more I want to talk to you about on race. And the comments while you're talking, I mean, there's people are just blowing up with all sorts of comments, but people are loving your skin suit comment. And people are red pill, and lots of great comments. And thank you everybody for commenting. I haven't been able to bring it in because we've been enjoying so much of what Monk has been saying. I want to add one thing to what you said about not living in victim mentality and not identifying solely with one aspect of our being, right? So there's a theoretical approach to this called mobile subjectivity, right? Now, there's a difference between subjectivity and objectivity. Subjectivity means you have agency and power, right? Objectivity, it lacks the power. You are an object. So as we recall our own power, we then can move and navigate, like you're saying. One identity might be gay, one identity might be man, one identity might be black, one identity might be woman, one identity might be Pacific Islander, whatever your identity. And then there are all those other sub-identities. And so as we can move in and out, have some mobility and put on different suits, then we have power as we navigate the structure, right, of the institution. So it gives us some sort of ninja power to move, right? As we can change our identities, our subjectivities. Now, and you said, it's all about, you keep referring so beautifully back to the truth. You're speaking truth, that it's spiritual healing. It's inward work. The healing is the revealing of those areas within us that are seeking to be brought to the light. And as we do that for ourselves, as Jesus said in that beautiful alchemical statement, as I rise, all rise unto or with me, right? And so as we do that work in ourselves, we're providing a place in the collective consciousness, the race consciousness, the noosphere for that idea to emerge. Given that, now to kind of switch topics, I want to talk about your personal journey of healing, especially because I'm really interested. So 3 parts. 1, your journey of healing, your backstory, how you got to rock bottom, if you want to do that in a encapsulated bit, and then the moment of awakening. And I don't like the word woke, right? Because it's like, oh, I'm done. I woke. No, it's awakening.
Yeah.
Present continuous, baby. So that idea of when you had that, oh, this is who I want to be. This is what's being called forth, and how you got from there to where you are now, writing a book, teaching, speaking, coaching, all of that. So there was a time of germination from the awakening to there. So 2-part question: how'd you get to rock bottom, and how'd you get back out?
Woo! Okay. So first of all, I mean, I really believe that some people that had the hardest upbringings have the potential to have the biggest impact on this planet just because of where they came from. So this is how it all started. In a month I'll be 51 years old. So I was born in the 60s, right? I was born in the 60s, black father, white mother, right? So right off the top, we were not the normal family, okay? And then on top of that, we were welfare kids. My whole life, from the time I was born to the time I got out of the house, we were on the system. So we were very, very poor. On top of that, my father passed away when I was about 4 years old. They don't know really what happened, but he was involved in drugs, alcohol, abusive, things like that. This is a story that I heard. But one thing my mom did say is he really loved you. That made me feel because, you would want to have your father around, but then you hear these other things that aren't so good, and you're going, well, maybe it's best that he wasn't. But I never thought it had an impact on me, right? So we were raised in church. My mom did the best she could. She wasn't very educated. There were 7 of us. 7 of us. No father was ever in the house, step or otherwise, right? So she took us to church, and whatever she was taught, she thought, okay, well, we're going to keep these kids in line. And I'm going to keep these kids in line, and I'm going to show them this, whatever I was taught. So I was raised in church. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, before I understood the concept of heaven and hell, I was a bad kid. I was acting out, right?
Yeah.
I was stealing from stores already. So like I said, we were so broke. I was already going in and stealing candy. If you don't have the money, what do? You take it. I was a little thief. I was really acting out. I was violent at that young age, believe it or not. My brother tried to do something. He's a few years older, my older brother. I actually, when my babysitter was there, I actually pulled a knife out on him and said, you touch me again, I'm gonna stab you, right? So I got in a lot of trouble for that. When we went to church the next day, the whole church was talking to me like, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's not of God, and whatever they're saying, right? So, but it got to a point where I understood the concept of heaven and hell. So you know what I did was I straightened up, because I'm believing this now because I was there my whole life in church, hearing all these things, being programmed by all these things, but not really understanding these things because I was so young. So I got to a point and I was like, I can't go to that place, what they're talking about, the fire and the brimstone. I'm trying to stay away from that spot, right? So I straightened up. I'm like, I was on the straight and narrow, right? I just played sports. I wasn't stealing anymore. I was a quote unquote good kid. So the problem with that is it was out of fear that I changed. It wasn't a change of heart. It was a fearful decision. And I was so on board with it. I was trying to, tell other people, look, if you don't do this, trying to invite them into my fearful place. Like, if you don't do this, this was going to happen to you. I was all on board with it, right? This is how programming works. But then I got to a place where my hormones were starting to change. And some of the rules that we were given, there were deal breakers as far as getting I wasn't really resonating with. I'm like, this don't make no sense. I can't wait till I'm married. This is crazy. So I try to justify it like this, right? I have a girlfriend. I'm like, well, I'm going to marry you anyway. So, I mean, we might as well go ahead and do this now.
That's a good one, man. I'm going to marry you anyway, baby. That's a great line. You were good.
I had to try to make it fit. So, because I was still living in that fearful place, right? But it finally got to the point where I'm like, look, if I'm going to go, I'm going to go. And I just, boom, I hit the streets. And eventually, I started to drink a lot. And I was selling cocaine. And I was being involved in violence. And the girl I said I was supposed to marry anyways, I had like 5 of those. And it was just a mess. I was a mess. I'm in this lifestyle now. And really, for once, had some acceptance in my life. Like, the people I was hanging around with, they accepted me and they liked me. But the problem with that is everybody that I hang around with was also fatherless. So we were learning from each other.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I was up in Humboldt County, but all my friends, they're from Bay Area, they're from Richmond or Oakland. And that's how I started, selling drugs as a teenager. And I never was no big time drug dealer. I was just doing it to have a little bit of extra change. You know what I mean? But the point of the fact is I was doing things that it wasn't aligned with who I really was.
Right.
Even when I was being violent, it's like I knew that wasn't me. When I was doing the things I was doing, I knew that wasn't me. That wasn't who I really was. This was a character. This was a character that I was.
Of course.
This was a role that I was playing, and I was good at it. And I was even better at it when I was drunk. Right. So I was a very likable person, excluding the violent episodes. Right. I was a very likable person when I was on this, and it really made me come to a place. I was a very insecure kid because of how I was raised, and
Sure.
the brokenness, the going food stamps, and all that stuff. I was in my race and what I was dealing with. I was very insecure. But when I drank that alcohol, it almost put me in a place of false sense of being present. I
Sure.
wasn't worried about the past. I wasn't concerned about I wasn't concerned about the future. I was there. I was living it. I didn't give a damn at that point when I'm drunk, right? Anything goes. I'm living my life to the fullest. But then after that, the next day, you have the pendulum swings back the other way.
Right.
And you were in a very bad place. You're in a very low vibrational place. You're in a very emotional place. Physically, you're hurting. So what do you do now to get rid of this feeling? Because this feeling is no good. The night before, I was on top of the world. The morning after, I'm in the basement. So how do I get back up there? You know the drill, right? Hair of the dog, right? Let's get back at it.
Mm-hmm.
Feel terrible. I know how not to feel terrible. So this continued for years. I had a bunch of kids doing the same old thing, no direction in my life. I thought I didn't have a purpose, and then you get to a point I was in my 30s, just like questioning everything, like, what is this? Do I even want to be here? What there got to be something else besides.
Got to be something more.
Right. So at that point, I'm good 20 years into this lifestyle. And I go, maybe I missed something in church. So I went back to a church. I was in the Bay Area, and I didn't feel any love at this church I went to. They actually was like, where are you from? And I'm like, what? Is this a gangbanging church or something? Why are you asking me where I'm from? Why can't you just say welcome? We love that you are here, and thank you for coming in and sharing your whatever. They say, where are you from? I'm like, around the corner. I just came in. So then I left feeling really disappointed. Like, no, I didn't miss anything. This is what it is, right? And I went back to doing the same old thing.
Mm-hmm.
So here comes the beginning of the end of that lifestyle. I'm 38 years old. I'm in Miami, maybe 37 even. And I'm going to party for the week. The night before, I was about to go big. I think I was already going big, but my wife at the time, we decided, well, if we're not going to try to get pregnant, but if it happens, it's meant to happen. We weren't stopping it, but we weren't saying, let's try.
Right.
We're leaving it up to God. You know what I mean? Universe, whatever. So the night before we were both about to go in, I said, you know what? You should check to see if you're pregnant. Man, this was like a week after we decided this thing here. I mean, I'm locked and loaded at all times, it seems. This is gonna be my sixth child, right?
Wow.
So yeah. So she goes, okay, I'll check. Boom. She's pregnant. We were both just like, whoa. So she held off on the party and whatnot, and I went in. Well, the first night I was there, drank all night till the next day. Miami doesn't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I get up to use the bathroom, and I'm peeing blood now. So not on top of the way I'm already feeling depressed, and I'm already feeling anxious, and I'm already feeling like I don't have a purpose, and I just found out I'm having another child. I'm now waking up with a hangover with this thing going on.
Wow.
So it's almost like the universe will keep slapping you lightly, and if you're not responding, it's going to hit you with an uppercut, right? So this was that uppercut, and this is when I realized I was an alcoholic. I never considered myself an alcoholic. So this happened. I'm good. We get back to the Bay Area. I don't drink for the rest of the time while I'm there because this, super scary, right?
Yeah, right.
So I get back to the Bay Area, and I'm like, oh, I'm good. It's been a while since I started drinking again. Same thing. I didn't just do it once. I didn't do it twice. I didn't just do it 3 times. I'm trying to get out of this emotional bad place, and the only way I know how to do it is drinking. It was
And every time you drank, you had blood in your urine.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then finally, after a birthday party one night, I go, you know what? I said, this is it. This is it. After this party, I said, you know what? Either I'm going to live and figure this thing out, or I'm just going to keep drinking until I kill myself. And I chose to live. And I know exactly the day because it was a birthday party. The next day, I stopped drinking for good. And that was over 12 years ago. So now what?
So that was the moment of an awakening. Something happened. Something shifted.
That was the moment of, do you want to live or do you want to die? It was that.
Okay.
Moment. So it was a forced stop, right? I forced that stop. I had to make that decision. But now what? Now everything that I've been suppressing and repressing, I got to deal with sober. Right? So I usually, when I drink, I smoke weed and I smoke cigarettes. I do it all together, right? It's either all or nothing.
It's the Trinity, baby.
Right. Right.
There was a time, I gotta tell you, there was a time in my life where I actually thought, like, if I could just drink, smoke cigs, and smoke weed, that'd be clean living. Yeah. That's what that was. If I could just do that, I'd be clean, man.
If I could just put down the powder and the other stuff, right. Good. Yeah.
I'm with you, bro. I'm with you.
Right. So now I'm like, I'm feeling super anxious, and I'm chain smoking Newports, just I don't even know what to do. I'm outside just smoking, like I need a drink, but I'm not going to do it, right? So I'm like, what can I do? I don't even know what to do right now. I'm just so confused and so lost. And I don't know why meditation crossed my mind. But I said, you know what? I've tried everything else. Let me go ahead. And basically when I looked it up, it said, sit down, see what comes up.
So you like looked up meditation. You're like, let me look up meditation. Sit down, see what comes up. And you sat down.
Sat down.
Wow.
And I sat down every day after day, week after week, year after year. And what I noticed is initially, it's like when I did that and I took time to sit, that my days were just a little bit lighter, a little bit better. Mm-hmm. I was a different trajectory. And I'm like, if your days get better, people don't understand moment to moment. If your days are better, your life is better.
Now, let me ask you really quickly. Did you ever seek like a meditation teacher or get guidance or it was all just you sitting down on your own?
Oh, people think I went to AA and all kind of stuff. No, I've never done any of it, right? So I started sitting down. And if your days get better, then that means your weeks are better. That means your months are better. That means your years are better. That means your life is better. So I'm thinking to myself, well, if my days are better, my life is better. If my moments are better, my life is better, period. We're just moment to moment here, right? So right. If that 24-hour span of moments is better, then your life is going to be better. But I didn't know like the transformational value that it had until I started sitting down, for years. So first of all, when I really realized that something was really going on, I started to cultivate compassion in my life. So I started to look at other people like, how can I help them? This was never me. I was the number one selfish person on this planet, right? It was all about me. That's why I have so many kids by different women, and it always had to be about me. Yeah. It was not about me. My needs, what I wanted, it had to be my way or the highway, right? Mm-hmm. So I started to cultivate compassion for homeless people, for people on drugs, for people, having alcohol problems, for people having money problems. I started to do just like, well, how can I help? Me and my wife and a couple of friends, we did a vegan homeless feed. It's like I started to be like understanding that homeless person is me, and that drug addict is me, and that alcoholic is me, and that genius is me. Mm-hmm. And that's a big one. That's a huge one. You're not just all these people that are in this certain place. You are on the other end of it too. you are unlimited, right? Go ahead.
I want to ask you a quick question. Can I raise my hand,
Yeah,
teach?
yeah, yeah,
um, um, so, like, what were you doing in life for a living when you were just partying? Was it all just drug sales? Was like keeping you alive,
yeah.
or money? And then like, uh, what were you doing once you decided to stop doing that? How did you make ends meet?
Yeah. So at one time it was just that. I was just that's how I was living. I was paying my bills and doing all of that with that. And then I tried to square up and I got a couple little jobs, right? Like regular jobs. And I lived that way and just did some stuff on the side. And then about right about the time my daughter was born, um, I got a job as a trainer. And
Uh,
I had just stopped drinking right when I got that job. I was still smoking. I'm surprised they probably smelled cigarettes when I came in, but I had just and then the crazy part is I didn't even apply for this job, and it was the same night my daughter was born. I had a interview that next day. I was up all night because my daughter was born like at midnight, so I was up all night. And I just came in. I didn't have any certifications, no nothing. It was a private gym. I came in just tired and sat down. I was like, I apologize. My daughter was just born last night. I mean, if I'm not totally prepared, but boom, I got that job. So then I started training people, and that's always been a part of what I do now,
right.
right? And that's where I'm. And then from that, then I realized that it's not just the physical body. Through my meditation practice, and I'll go on from that point. When I
Okay.
started to cultivate compassion, when I was sitting down, strange things started to happen. I started to get these weird, like head jerks, like super Tourette's, like things going on, right?
Yeah.
And then I started going, I was gonna keep sitting down anyways because it was changing my life in such a dramatic way. I didn't really know how, but I started getting these really violent involuntary body movements. I'm like, this is crazy. So I started looking it up, and I forgot what they called it, but it was basically about the energy was trying to come, but it was hitting blocks, right? So just knowing that the energy is starting to shift and starting to do something, but I still have blocks that I'm working on, right? And I didn't even tell anybody about the time because people would think I was crazy, right? At nighttime, sometimes when I lay down to relax, my whole head would rotate from one side to the other by itself. I'm not making this up right now. Like the energy
Yep.
was was moving up in my head, like just like the Exorcist, right? So one time when I was sitting in meditation, my belly started rolling so deep in and out. And when I say deep, I'm talking about my stomach was touching my backbone. That kind of deep, right? And it was just rolling. And it did it for like 10 straight minutes. No pain, no nothing. Just I'm sitting in meditation right now. I'm doing a belly dance, right? I'm like, this is wild, right? I didn't tell anybody after that either because people are gonna think I'm crazy. And I just recently told that story, but I looked it up and I didn't learn what I learned recently. But what I learned recently was that was Kundalini energy,
Mm-hmm.
and it was finally being released, right? So after this happened, the jerk stopped. So whatever blocks I think, and this I'm just going from what I've read and seen and heard, whatever blocks I had were removed and allowed that energy to now finally flow freely.
It's a form of purging. We see it here in ceremony. Like people drink the medicine, the plant medicine here, and some of the first things you get are twitches. And I do this like shamanic like sign language. All of a sudden, you're like, "What am I doing?" And I'm healing myself, and But it's very much a form: shaking, laughing, sweating, crying. All of these things you're talking about are a form. Yes, Kundalini energy rising, and it's releasing. It's a purging of things that are deeply embedded in
Yeah.
our physical body. In
Yeah,
our
and it
physical
can
body.
also be, epigenetics. It could be trauma that's just you don't even know it's there. You don't even know it's there. I had one time where I just cried uncontrollably and I could not stop.
So this is, such a great conversation. We're getting close to the end of our time, and I really want to ask you a few more questions. But this idea, it sounds to me, because my interest is, so I'll go back to what you were talking about. My interest is personally, like this story of germination. Like we see it here so often. People come here, they have an awakening in a week. You know, 97.55% of our guests that have been here say that this was a week, 6 months later, that the miracle that they got here is still working in their lives, and this was the week that changed their lives. People have this amazing awakening, and then they want to I want to save the rainforest. I'm going to quit my job and go, and it's like, wait, hold on. Um, and there's this moment of how do you get from here to there? It sounds like it was really seamless for you.
No, yeah, my moment, there was no moment. It was just a gradual thing. Like it's almost like, so if you was to go to the gym and you started a year ago and you were consistent, you can't really see yourself growing, but then you walk by a mirror and you're like, whoa, my life, my body has really changed. It was literally like that. It wasn't one moment. There was instances where the universe was telling me you're on the right path,
Right.
but it never was just one moment. And when I look back at it, that's how my name changed. That's how I made a connection to the oneness of it all. That's how I became, a plant-based person. I made that connection not only to the human condition but also the animal condition, knowing that suffering cannot be put in the boxes. All suffering affects everyone and every being, right? That's capable of suffering. That changed by itself. I didn't even choose to stop eating meat. I didn't choose that. Someone said, "Are you a vegetarian?" And something said, "Say yes." I was like, "True story, true story." And that was 8 years ago, and I haven't touched it since. True
Wow.
story. And then I did the research after the fact. So just making that connection, connecting to the higher self, and connecting to the oneness, connecting to God, connecting to Source, the answers are there. The direction is there. The way that you move through life, you will be shown that which way you want to go. I equate it to like a dirty battery cable, you right, corroded. You scrape that battery cable nice and clean and shiny, and then you connect it back on there, and you're gonna have that connection. Where before there was so much corrosion around it, you couldn't really hear or see what to do or where to move. But when that connection is there and is clean and crisp, you're allowed to get these messages and to move on these messages.
And that is exactly what meditation is. It is a decorroding of our connecting cable, right? It is. Reverend Michael says it's cleaning the perceptual windows,
Yes,
right? So that we see reality with a capital R, not our little self, little r reality, right? And each point in your journey, there is a moment where you're moving. The expansion of consciousness is always the, not always, but the expansion of consciousness has to do with the harmonization of those things which we consider to be oppositional within ourselves. And at each moment in your story, as you were talking, there's those moments of, I better check on this. Oh, this is something physical is happening. There's a harmonization. Oh, I'm going to sit and meditate. Oh, are you a vegetarian? Yes. Oh, so things just coming into alignment as you clean that connection. Let me ask you this, man. Just a couple final questions. What is your most cherished failure?
cherish failure. Well, first of all, failure I look at different now, right? So failure is just a growing opportunity.
Yes.
And I always, when I was growing up, I didn't want to live in the situation that my mom had to live in, and I didn't want to be who my father was said to be, and I ended up being exactly like both of them. And I realize now that that would be a failure in most people's eyes, but it was really the catalyst to my growth and for me to be able to expand and for me to be able to live my purpose. So that would be my greatest failure ending up like my parents. It's in that subconscious thing is so powerful. even consciously, I was like, I don't want to be like this. But when pressure is applied to your life, guess where you go? Your default. And what is your default? It's that
Yeah,
program.
what you know. Yeah. Well, I phrased the question cherished failure because I look at failure like that as well, right? That failure is only failure is quitting,
Yep.
right? Nobody's ever done anything right out the bat perfect. You know that with movement, right? Like nobody's like, oh, I'm going to do this movement. I'm going to do a handstand.
Right.
No, you got to work up to it, right?
Right.
There's a growing edge, right? So the idea exactly is like, what is that you thought was a failure that you look back at now and go, oh, that was a moment where life changed for me.
Well,
I got an insight.
I realize now that everything that I did go through has put me in position to do what I do now. So without
Amen.
these failures or life experiences, I wouldn't be able to identify with others that had these same. I mean, if you go across the board, I pretty much had all the experiences of everybody on the planet. So, when you experience so much, right, on this earth, I think you are almost put in a position that like you have to be a light worker. You have to be a teacher. You
Yes.
you have to be someone that helps people heal because you've been there, you've done that, you've had that experience, and now you can not at least point someone in the direction. We can't heal anybody, but we can hold space for that person. We can understand where that person is, where they are now. We can identify with that, what they're going through right now. And I think it's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing.
I think the distinction there that we teach at Agape is helping and fixing versus serving. That helping and fixing is that sort of inequality. You have something, you have a failure, you have a lack, right? I got to help you versus being of service, holding space, seeing wholeness. The consciousness that heals is the consciousness that just sees wholeness.
Yes.
Always, no
Yes.
matter what. I was looking at somebody turned me on to this YouTube channel that is a view of the Earth from the space station. Sometimes I just get on there and look at it. And I was looking at it the other night, and there's the Earth, and it just looks so peaceful and beautiful. It's like blue marble, and with swirls of white and green and brown. And then you think like, oh, there's fracking, and there's burning the rainforest, and there's hatred, there's war, there's all this stuff going on there. But from that perspective, you just see beauty.
Right.
And I thought, there's that. I believe it's in the Quran. God's eyes are too pure to perceive inequity. And I I was like, yeah, but there's so much wrong with me. How can God not see it? Right? But then that view of Earth was like, oh yeah, like there is all that other stuff, those lower vibrational frequencies happening down there. But from a perspective, from a divine perspective, it's just beauty. We're just beautiful. And we can see that in each other,
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's one of the things I say. It's like, if you really believe, a lot of people say they believe certain things, but when it comes down to that experience, they don't really believe that. Because if they did, their reaction to whatever is going on would be different.
Absolutely. That's called implicit bias. Like your conscious actions, you consciously say one thing, but your actions reveal another thing.
Exactly.
I want to ask you, one of the questions that someone asked here was, can you recommend a person or YouTube that you connect to begin meditating? And I'll say, Rhythmia has a whole series of meditations on YouTube. There's lots of apps out there. What do you have anybody that you would recommend to Diana, or is it Diana?
Well,
or Lisa?
Well, Skip is I don't even know if you know the story of how me and Skip even got connected, but Skip is my guy, and like the Insight Timer is a great tool.
Yep.
And he's on there. I mean, I've been on there for about five years now, just as a thing to time my meditations and to track my meditations. Even though I do them every day, I want to make sure that But then I seen that's where me and Skip met. But they have courses and they have all kinds of great stuff on Insight Timer. I highly recommend that. I always recommend it to my clients. Look, to keep yourself accountable, to hold yourself accountable, and it says how many days you have in a row. So you don't want to miss that day, even though it's like you shouldn't miss that day, but you like a day you might not want to do it. You go, I'm not gonna go back to zero. I'm gonna keep doing this, right? So just having that consistency with your meditation practice is huge. So Insight Timer, I'd say, would be the best way to go.
Beautiful. Okay, so you plugged Insight Timer. I gotta plug one thing. I'm actually on an app called the Med Collective, which is a new app that's coming out with a really cool ability to meditate and bring in different aspects and create the length of your meditation. So check out Insight Timer. Check out Med Collective.
How come I don't know about Med Collective?
It's just coming out, man. I'm gonna send you.
How come I'm not special enough to know about this?
I'm gonna send you. It's just come. It's literally in beta testing right now. I'm gonna send it to you.
I'm not gonna take it personal, John. I'm not gonna take it personal.
Man, you already said you don't take anything personal no more. So the 4 agreements, brother. So great to talk to you and to meet you. And I hope that we can continue this dialogue both on and off the screen, man. But I hope to continue to connect with you, and I just thank you so much for your time and for who you are in the world, man. Thank you so much.
Well, we're tribal members now. I mean, we are officially in the same officially. Oh, I got a new website too. I want to let you know.
Yeah, tell us, please.
Okay, it's monkeyeternal.com. And it's also my book coming up is Love Over Fear, A Guide to Peace and Purpose. But if you go to that website, monkeyeternal.com, all my social medias are there. And I will let you know exactly when the book's coming out and if you want to pre-order it.
I had questions on the book. I had all sorts of quotes from your website I was going to talk to you about. And we just got so into it. It was so good.
Well, it looks like you're going to have to have me back again then.
I think so. Done and done.
Right.
Brother, thank you.
We'll have to start from there and then go forward. We can't start from the beginning and go.
That's it. I'm with you. And people just really loved it. Lots of comments coming in on thank you for the conversation and the authenticity and vulnerability and just reality of it all. So, man, thank you,
brother.
Have a great day. Peace and blessings. And we'll see you soon. All right. Thank you.